Good morning, welcome to our final day talking about habits, at least for this portion. I'm sure I'm going to talk about it a lot in the future because it's such a fundamental part of change. It's so important for us on so many levels. Having said that, I wanted to send you off with some general tips to think about, to contemplate as you are setting up your routines, as you're starting to get into habits. So maybe I'll give you a few tips and then encourage you on the way out. And that's what I'll end with, okay? Number one, you got to choose the right habit. Make sure that you're choosing the right habit to start with. If you choose the wrong habit, meaning that if you're biting off too much, or you are like more than you can chew, or you are choosing something that you have so many negative connotations in your head, then typically it's very difficult to stack. It's okay if you hate exercise, or if you hate right now waking up in the morning or something. Start with something else so that you can anchor that to something else, okay? So for example, if waking up in the morning is difficult, do something first thing that you enjoy, that is pleasurable, that you can wake up for, and then you can stack other things on top and you'll automatically wake up a little bit more. If exercise is a difficult thing for you, if you hate exercise, well then again, start with something a little simpler. So start with morning, start with doing something else in the morning that is something you can do and you want to do, and then you can stack later on, okay? That's number one. Secondly, remember the 1% rule. The 1% rule is basically along the lines of simply change by 1% every day. If you changed one thing in your business, or one thing in your life, one thing in your relationships, by 1% on a daily basis, you would grow astronomically. And so much of the time we're about big changes, about taking down this contract or doing this huge thing for people. This is what birthday parties and anniversaries and things like that are about, is doing this huge thing over the top. You know what, that's not what's important for relationships. What's more important for relationships is, and I'm not saying that that's completely unimportant, but the more important thing for relationships is doing things every day that consistently invest in somebody. They consistently bring you together. Those are the small things. So focus on the small stuff. The small stuff that makes a small incremental difference will add up to massive, massive results later on, okay? It compounds on itself. Just like money, like you learned about compounding interest. Third is do constant reviews of your habits on a weekly basis, or a monthly basis, or quarterly basis, or a yearly basis. Ask yourself, what habits have I changed? What have I worked on? What's working, what's not working, and what can I do in the future? I would say do it at least on a quarterly basis. I do this kind of consistently on about a monthly, or every month or two. I'm reassessing my habits and going, what is important to me? What do I want to grow in? What are some habits I want to take out? How is this working? And I tweak things constantly if I need to, okay? Know also, and this is a really important thing, actually I'll get two more tips. One is the Goldilocks principle. So the Goldilocks rule is don't do anything that's too hard, don't do anything that's too easy. Do something in the middle, okay? There's a sweet spot with most actions we take in life. And if you find that sweet spot, you're going to be far better, far more consistent in doing the things you want to do. So instead of, again, taking something on that's too hard or something that's too easy, push yourself a little bit, but not so far that you're not going to do something. I'll give you an example. Early on, when I didn't understand this, and I was an all or nothing person, I would work out, and I would say, oh, I'm going to work out, and I'm going to do all these routines, and I would work out so hard over the first few days that I was dead tired. I wasn't having enough sleep. I was miserable around the house, and my body hurt so much that I didn't want to get up and do it anymore. So I would work out really hard for a few days, and then I'd stop. That's not helpful for me long term. What's helpful for me long term is to ramp it up. Start off in a place where it's still pushes me, but not over the top. And then I can build the pattern, I can build the habit, and eventually I'll start doing it consistently. That will help me far more. Walking instead of doing a hard workout, always, always, always more important than quitting in the end. So it's always better to do something. Last one is that change often doesn't, we often don't see outward results until there's been a lot of internal change. Excuse me. We don't often see outward results until we have a lot of internal change. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that we need to change who we are. We need to work on our identity. And I've talked about identity earlier on. Go back to that video and listen to it, because it's one of the most fundamental pieces of this. Your identity needs to be tied up in your habits. So when you start to see yourself as a morning person, you'll get up in the morning without a problem. When you start to see yourself as somebody who, talks a certain way or listens to people in conversations, if you see yourself as a non-smoker, you see yourself as a swimmer, you see yourself as whatever, that's when you'll start doing it on a consistent level, okay? So that's really important. in order to create that identity, it takes time. So while it's building internally, the exterior look of things doesn't always seem super attractive. If something doesn't change immediately, it doesn't mean that change isn't taking place. Conversely, if you do something that hurts you, often we don't see the results of it for a while. So again, this is why, again, if you eat chocolate cake today, is it going to make a massive difference for you today? No. But if you eat chocolate cake every day, that does make a difference for you. To how you feel, to how you to your emotional state, to a whole bunch of places, long term. And so many people get into the rut of making a decision for the now rather than for the later. And what I want you to do is think about the later. Think about how much energy you need to put into something before you actually see that threshold. You cross that threshold where you start rolling downhill. It's a hard slog pushing up that rock, that boulder uphill. But once it's there, it goes down. It's hard pulling your sled up the hill or riding your bike up a hill. But going down the hill, that is so much fun. And it's so enjoyable. And it takes the work beforehand to get there. A really quick example, and then I'll let you go, okay? With an action step. So it takes 1 calorie to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water 1 degree Celsius, okay? So the definition of a calorie is the amount of energy it takes to raise the temperature of 1 gram of water 1 degree Celsius. So 24 to 25 degrees, it takes 1 calorie. 78 to 79 degrees, 1 calorie. 99 to 100 degrees, 1 calorie. But something fascinating happens at 100 calories. To change state, so up till now you've just been changing something quantitatively, not qualitatively, okay? You've been changing something in a small way. When you change state, when you go from water to steam, 100 degree water to 100 degree steam, 1 gram of it, do you know how many calories it takes? 540 calories. It takes an enormous amount of energy. And think about this for a second, because if you want big changes in life, if you want to change who you are, if you want to make a massive difference and change fundamentally, that's going to require more energy. It's going to require it's going to require far more persistence. So this is my recommendation for you. What I'd like you to do as an action step is ask yourself, are my goals, are my relationships, are my finances, is my business, are the things that I want in life, is my physical health, my emotional health, my mental health, are these things important enough to invest the time, energy, and money into these things? Is it worth it to be persistent even if I don't see immediate change? Is it worth it to become who I need to become in order to receive these things? There's an idiom that I've heard thrown around a little bit in our culture, and I love it. Are you willing to live like no one else right now, so that later on you can live like no one else? To have the relationships, and have the physical health, and have the emotional and mental health, and have the business, and have the cash, and have the trips, and have the things that you want later in life. Are you willing to do the things right now? Are you willing to do what other people refuse to do because they don't think long term, they think short term? Are you willing to create the habits in your life that will make a massive difference later, so that you can live like no one else can live later on? People talk about the hierarchy of wealth in the world, and this applies to wealth in every area of life. Wealth in relationships, wealth in physical health, wealth in like financial wealth. At the top, there aren't a lot of people. It's not very crowded up there. The views are wonderful. The air is fresh because it's not so crowded. At the bottom, where everyone's struggling with debt and terrible relationships and all that kind of stuff, broken bodies, broken relationships, broken finances, broken everything. It's crowded because that's where a lot of people are. That's where the average person is. Ask yourself today, and I simply want you to ask yourself and be honest with yourself. If you're honest with yourself, you'll find the right answer. If you're not ready for this, that's okay. But when you ask yourself, are my goals, who I want to become, are the results worth the effort it's going to take, the persistence it's going to take, the energy it's going to take me to invest in this right now? If so, ask yourself a second question. What do I need to do to get there as fast as possible? Because it's not wrong to want to get there faster. There are ways to speed this up. For example, a coach. For example, accountability. There are ways to speed the process. And if you want to get there quicker, again, and you're willing to put in the energy, time, and effort, and in money, and whatever it costs, then guess what? You can reach it far faster. And it's far more fulfilling. Enjoy this day. Enjoy the process of going through this, and enjoy creating fantastic habits.